I'm Teresa Lisum. Hi, I'm coming to you with my amazing guest co-host, Barbara Drtina, and we're evolving women. So I'm evolving, you're evolving, we're all evolving. So let's help each other to evolve. We're here today to infuse the world with uplifting messages, new perspectives, empowering tools, fresh insights, some resources, maybe to plant some new seeds, and we talk on anything from wellness ideas to mindset shifts, maybe some new self-belief strategies. You never know what you're going to get, but we're dedicated to being a source of inspiration for you. So we're here to give you permission to be your best self. So welcome. We're so glad you're
Oh,
here.
thank you so much for inviting me, Teresa. It's an honor. And thank you for all the work that you do because reaching women and men and having this format and having these topics, I don't think we can have too many. We're living in a world today that's really challenging on our whole physical body, our emotions, and everything in between, right? We're dysregulated actually from the pandemic, from our political situation, everything happening in the world. And, I never thought I would be arrived or looking at things the way that I look at them today. And like you say, evolving, we have to honor that. I know I'm never done. I'm always seeking and looking for other things. And I myself had something really, really hit me hard. I was going through a very difficult divorce. And, my life hit me hard and you crumble and you fall. And either you pick yourself back up and become stronger from that, or, you put the covers over your head and, uh, sort of succumb to, to being less than or play small or to
Mm-hmm.
you know um and I never could have imagined in my life that something like this could happen to me, but my daughter at 15 took her life, and I
Mm.
wanted to be
Wow.
that super mom. And divorce really happens, and that's one topic that I do speak about because my background's early childhood education, and our children are the collateral damage of so much of these
Oh
things.
my
And
gosh,
so,
yes.
maybe another time we can talk about parental alienation and things. So, learning how to manage, I was so filled with anxiety and angst, and my mind was going like crazy. And before she died, she was brilliant and beautiful, but she was a conflicted child. So my mind was always thinking, what can I do? Who can I
Mm-hmm.
call? What's going on here? And so, not knowing how to regulate myself and how to calm down my system, I never learned that as a child. We were sort of a high anxiety, chaotic kind of family growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are only the tools that I had. And one thing that really made a huge difference, I was asked to be part of an author in this book called Ignite Possibilities.
Ooh.
And so many people from around the world tell their stories. And it really made me look at everything and look at myself. And there was a quote to be had in this book. And my quote was, I thought, what am I going to come up with? But you are not the pain you have known. You're the possibilities
Mm.
you get to live into. And I
Ooh.
think that is so powerful because we all have circumstances. We all have those forks in our life and other things that really make us who we are. And and that pathway of evolving or shutting down
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
available to us. And so by telling people stories, um, you're really doing such a big service. And that's when I
Thank you.
realized that our emotions play such a big role in our health. And I told you that I represent a line of products that actually activate your body. And in today's world, the world that we live in, it's the air we breathe, the food we
Mm-hmm.
eat,
Yep.
everything has chemicals and pesticides and the EMFs. And here we
Yes.
are online, and they
Yes.
spray for mosquitoes, and we have, you know, uh, that we just cannot control all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so working to be healthy is a big full-time job.
Yeah, it's an
And
ongoing, never ending. Yeah. practice and process.
Right. And so, I've talked about that, but people don't touch on the emotional wellness. And so, what helped me was learning how to meditate and quiet my mind and to contemplate. And that led to like taking yoga, doing other things. We talk about a nature bath. And I know you work with oils. All of those things
Mhm.
are just so important to our well-being and our lifestyle, right? And paying
Mhm.
attention to that, and we're just racing and racing and racing.
And it's
And
fairly easy. Those are easy to come by tools.
yeah,
Meditation is free. A yoga class, it could be free depending on where you go. But just,
online,
yeah, online or to a class or, yeah, breathing. I mean, that's free. That's available to
breath
us.
work.
I like laughter. Laughter is a tool I use.
Yep.
So we need to find our own tools, our own ways of regulating our emotions that, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, we were never taught back when we were younger. And I'm not placing blame on anybody within the family because they didn't know neither.
Right.
So I don't know where it broke down along the generations, but we just didn't come up with any kind of tools or resources. And we had to learn them as we got older and matured and, talked to people and learned. And so, yeah. And so can you imagine what we would have been like if we would have had some kind of tools? And I feel that we have a really good opportunity to allow the younger generation access to these tools and information about these tools. And I think they should all be in the schools. All of this stuff need to be taught in the
The
schools.
studies are there.
Oh
I
my
went to
gosh, yeah.
with the superintendent of schools in Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale,
Hmm.
and they have put mindfulness practices
Hmm.
into their schools, and they had really big stories about trauma. And that's what I felt like. I started studying trauma and what it does in our body. We store it in our
Hmm.
body. And when we were growing up, nobody talked about anything. It was always
Exactly.
stuff it and don't
Exactly.
tell anybody. And
Yep.
we weren't allowed to express, but
Yes.
also science progresses. And so I just listened to a talk that impressed me so much. My background's in early childhood education, and behavior has always been something dear to me. And losing a child, feeling like you couldn't save your child
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
those are really my skills. But Dr. Mario Martinez. So he's a psychologist, but he and an MD, obviously, but he brought it much farther. It's biocognition that our cognitive and our emotions affect our bodies so much so more than they ever even thought. He cited a
Hmm.
study of women that had gone through traumas and MS. I mean, it shows, and people that dealt with forgiveness didn't have the same uh,
Hmm.
manifestation as somebody who was holding everything in. And he went around the world. This has fascinated me in this space because I'm in the wellness and aging, you know, prolonging preventative, the
Hmm.
health business, not the sickness
Hmm.
business, right?
Right.
Is that centenarians that he interviewed around the world, it's really their attitude and what they take in and how they look at life that makes such huge differences. And we've all heard about the blue zone diets and things like that. But this is so much more than that. And showing the research that this is true. And these are practices that you can do and learning how to do it once
Mm.
you know.
Yeah,
Like
that's
for
the thing, learning how to do it. And you got to know where that it's even available to be able to go learn.
yeah. So that's part of my mission. And thank you for bringing me on here because I want to do a lot more speaking. And I'm also doing work in honor of my daughter. I have a
Mm.
course that I'm starting for women going through divorce, things I wish I had known. And that
Mm.
comes down to not stuffing everything, being aware of of your children, being present, being learning to um, calm down your nervous system because we're all on fight or flight, and
Yeah.
to make good decisions, to be able to not impact your health. I was a freaking mess. I didn't have those.
Mm.
And also thinking, we're worried about our children, we're worried about our settlements, and not as women, so many times we don't put the oxygen mask on or
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
our own self-care, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
for sure.
so an incident like that can really affect your health and well-being, and
Mm-hmm.
your children are watching you.
Yeah, for sure. And I understand that moms with moms with young kids, they're in survival mode. I
Yeah,
remember being in survival mode. I can
yeah,
see my daughter and her kids, she's in survival mode. So we're just doing the best we can. But if we had had these tools in advance of that,
yes,
maybe it would have been different. And our kids would have seen those, our, taking care of ourselves and soothing ourselves and not stuffing things down, expressing emotions in a healthy way. Then that would have set them up in a better way for their life. I mean, again, we're only where we're at. We're not
right,
here to judge any previous
right.
experience or, I mean, just we were doing the best at that time with what we knew. And now we know better. And now we want to share that information.
Yeah, and at the time I got divorced, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Became
Right.
we were more isolated, and now we have the opportunity of supporting one another, being there, create community, and also it's the awareness, because it's true, we just started survival, and then you
Yeah.
stop and go, wait a minute, I'm at a stoplight, I can take two big deep breaths.
Yes. Yes.
It truly does miraculous work in our parasympathetic nervous system.
Mm-hmm. And giving ourselves permission to let
Yeah.
that parasympathetic come forward. Like you said, just with some breaths and just a couple of seconds, a minute, 30 seconds, just to step back
Oh,
and ground ourselves or whatever,
well,
whatever modality, whatever tool you happen to have or, be comfortable with.
and it
But
can be different for everyone.
exactly, exactly. And for our listeners and viewers, that's part of why we're here. We want to expose more people, more women to what else is out there. I remember, oh, I mean, it wasn't in the too distant past when I knew none of this stuff. I knew nothing about the body and how emotions affected us and how toxins from our environment affect our body and how there were different different healing modalities other than the medical system I was used to. Like I knew none of that up until I'm going to
Right.
say 15 years ago, because again, I wasn't exposed to it growing up. And so I feel it's important to expose other women to this information that they might not have gotten any other way.
It's true. And one thing I liked that he expressed in this book, it's like, okay, our body, why aren't we looking at our health from, let's keep our health.
Yeah.
How do we expand our health? Even looking at the pandemic, I thought, why aren't they talking about all the
Yeah.
positive things that we can do? How can we
Yes.
build our immune
Yes.
system? How can we go outside and breathe fresh air?
Yes.
If there were, can we boost our glutathione, which is our immune system? And so we're sort of backwards in that way, and it's
Right.
starting to shift. I just was talking to a wellness center spa that's just been opened by a neurologist, and he did
Oh.
a big talk at the country club, and he's major MD person. And talking to his staff, I went over there. They're very open to the kind of products I represent, and all of that. They have a red light bed. They do IVs of glutathione and other
Mm.
trace minerals, and taking that approach. And it was gorgeous, refreshing. And why not go that route first?
Right, right. And then leave that medical, invasive, um, pharmaceutical um, solution for after you try everything else. because there is
Yeah,
a place for that. There is place for all of that. But there's
absolutely.
so much you can do prior to that.
Absolutely. And then we were just talking a little bit about fasting before this, and I had started following Dr. Mindy Pels, and we all hear about intermittent fasting and all of that. And she goes into such detail. I started a water fast today. Never would I thought that I would do something like that, but when you're on so many hours, it triggers your bacteria in your stomach and resets it so you don't have those sugar cravings and a dopamine rush. Um, she enlightened us about I knew this before, that the food companies are actually allowed to spray the foods with craving ingredients and maybe drugs on there. um, that make us want more. So our body is in this constant dopamine rush, and our cell phones do that, looking for all that next thing.
Yeah, yeah. That,
And all of that affects how our hormones react. And you want more, more, more. So she said dopamine is a thing of more. So you see the chips in the
mm.
store and you get a dopamine rush. Ooh, those Doritos, they'd be good. Then you put them in your cart. That's another dopamine hit. I'm taking them home.
Right,
You're
right.
unpacking them. That's an and this then you open the bag and the smell of them,
Yep, yep,
your
yep.
dopamine is so then you lose your sensation of joy and the taste factors. Isn't that interesting?
Mm,
You do a fast to cleanse your system. She said you won't believe how things taste. You're not
mm.
necessarily craving them or being addicted to your phone, addicted to particular foods.
Well, yeah, that it's that instant gratification that we've been trained on, what, in the last 20 years, maybe a little bit longer, I don't know. But you're right that everything's set up to get us to that point where we want more, 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 and we just jump from one dopamine hit to another. And just the simple fact that there's sugar in so many things. Like we don't need sugar in everything. But yet that's a craving. That's something that we want more of. I
Yeah,
know I was only in Mexico once, and they had these beautiful desserts to pick from. And so when I took a bite of it, it was like there was no sweetness to it whatsoever. It was so interesting that their sugar content, I'm assuming, I don't know, this is just from my own experience, was not as high as maybe something I would have got here in the States that, has 5 cups of sugar in it or whatever. So,
it's
and,
really
sugar and ketchup and so many things that it really doesn't need to be in, but it's almost like we are set up and trained and, you know,
well, here in Florida, there's some big sugar companies, and actually, one of my brothers, he's friends with the executives from there, and one of the sons, he's a lobbyist for sugar, and
yeah,
so to put that in fructose and everything, and our
yep,
children
yep,
are in the cereals and the yogurts
yep.
and all of that, so our taste levels crave it, and they do say that's like legal cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, no, I believe that. I believe that. So
I
I
think
can see where a fast would like be a pattern interrupt. It would stop that, cleanse everything, cleanse your system, cleanse your palate, basically, and allow you to restart. I mean, it sounds really tough to me, a 3 day, like, oh my gosh, sounds really, really long. So I'm going to invite our viewers to research it. Check it out. Check out some of these resources, these books that Barbara has shared with us. And we'll put those titles in yeah, that's it. Fast Like a Girl.
and
Because there's
there's
so much involved as a woman, there's so many layers. We're more
yeah.
complicated than a man's body is. So,
Yeah, and there's something for everyone. And even people that fast a lot, it's like change that, or it doesn't have to be this giant fast. They can be little things and little things that you do. sort of work with your body. And
Hmm.
that's what I like. So the emotional part is working with your body. And again, as I talked about, there's products that activate your body, that activate your pathways instead of trying to figure out a recipe to supplement them. So there's so many great, it's shifting. Don't you feel like it's
Oh,
shifting?
yes, yes. Oh, for sure. Like things are so much more in our awareness as a society here in the States that was never, my mom and dad or grandparents, they never would have had this information, nor would they have believed it probably. So, yeah, it's definitely shifting. I mean, look at Reiki and the healing modalities like that, energy work. That is almost, and at least in my world, it's like kind of commonplace. And it may not be to our viewers, but it
Mm-hmm.
is something that's not like shunned or thought is too woo woo. Like it has come kind of into mainstream,
Yeah.
such as
Yeah.
chiropractic work. I remember as a kid, like that was not anything we even would have considered. And now that's really commonplace. We have all these complementary modalities that again would serve as a really beginning point or a way of life, a natural way of living before we had to get to those more intense medical
Yes.
solutions, as I referred to before. But if you don't know they're there, then in that you've been brought up with that modern medical way of thinking, you can't really get outside that box until you have these other bits of information coming in. So,
Or until those things aren't working or you're getting
yeah,
sicker
exactly. You're
and sicker.
exactly
And
right. Yep.
but
Yep.
we do preventative maintenance on our car, but we
Yeah,
just take our body in and it's like, okay, what and it's just it's
that's a really good point. Good analogy. Yeah. So why
and
not
so
do maintenance every day on our body? Like I said, whether it be a meditation or a prayer practice or a gratitude practice or a forgiveness practice or a breathing practice,
and
take some time to do that.
yes, and doctors weren't trained in that. And
Hmm.
so
Yep.
a lot of them are becoming more functional medicine. And we do some talks here, and I have a double board certified doctor. She has a clinic and she's internal medicine and emergency room medicine sort of, double board certified. And she said, we didn't learn about gut health. It was like, this is a tube from something you eat to something you poop out.
Yep.
They
Hey, yeah,
didn't.
you
And
can
now
say
that we
that.
know that the gut plays such a huge role in our body.
I
And
know.
also, if we're not physically well, it affects our emotions.
Yes.
So
And
those
vice
kind
versa.
of practices,
Yeah,
yeah,
they play off of each other. And yeah, the whole gut thing is really coming into the forefront as of late, I've noticed. Um, and again, as a kid, as a young adult, I never would have thought about what I was taking in was affecting my gut biome, that was affecting my emotions. Yeah, I mean, there's so much intertwining that we did not realize. And I'm so glad that it is coming to the forefront and we're starting to understand more because we're multi-layered people,
yeah,
multi-layered humans. And it's just not a one thing. Oh, it's just your body, or it's just your brain, or and I know growing up, that's what I always thought because they compartmentalized the
our
way they
body.
taught us things. And when I first had the realization that like, oh, like there's all these connectedness going on in our body and like there is, like I did not have that concept when I was learning about it. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but
No, but the doctors too, they become more and more specialized. Okay, I only
mhm.
work on fingers,
Good
you
point.
know,
Yep.
and so when you go to an acupuncturist or other, those things, those symptoms might not even be originating in that area.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
from
That.
somewhere out. And the same with trauma. It gets lodged, we have a cellular memory and it gets lodged in our body at different places. So
Yeah.
uh, creating that course, my goal was to help mitigate the trauma. You can't dive deep at that time. I mean, it's hard enough you're in survival mode,
Yes.
but
Yes.
what to do to alleviate more trauma, by doing some simple things.
Yeah, and thank you for that. So I think we're going to wrap this conversation up, but we're going to do a part two. So make sure you listen to the next episode once we get these recordings out, and we're going to continue the conversation because I just love all the stuff and we could go down so many paths. But we'll tie it up for today, and I am going to invite our listeners and our viewers to look at the description. We'll put some of these book titles. I'll give you information how to get a hold of Barb and, check out some of these books. And you mentioned an ebook. Is that your ebook or is that somebody else's ebook?
Ebook, and I would be happy to send it out. It has some great information, even about sleep, our muscular skeletal body, our fibroblast cells, centenarian consciousness,
Mm.
and it just little blurbs about all those things that really contribute to your whole wellness.
Okay, so we will provide these resources. Grab them from the description, get a hold of Barb if you choose to. Again, her information will be in the description. And if you have a comment you'd like to leave, we would love to hear it. If you feel this was beneficial and you want to share this episode with somebody else, please do so. Because remember, we're all evolving. We want everybody to be evolving together with us. Subscribe, do all that stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to leave our friends behind.
Right. We want everybody to come along and be part of the party. So I want to thank you so much, Barbara. We so appreciate you being here and your wisdom and your passion and your enthusiasm. Thank you so much. And again, watch for that second episode because it's coming. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.